Good evening. I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler, and tonight's presentation for the latest weather update is titled Timing is Everything. Just like in certain areas of life, you're hoping for that right timing, that right opportunity to come along. The weather behaves very similar. Timing is everything. If you want winter weather, you gotta have everything come together and align perfectly, especially if you live in Southeast Virginia. All right, so what are we going to cover in tonight's video? We're going to cover a more active weather pattern that is setting up for the Mid-Atlantic. We see a more southern storm track finally developing, so we'll go over some of that in more detail. The wintry weather across the Mid-Atlantic, it is a possibility. This weekend, Saturday the 16th of February and Sunday the 17th of February. I'll go over that in more detail on this presentation. And by the way, those systems this weekend don't look overly strong and powerful, nothing major, but again, we have to watch these systems because sometimes they can amplify a little bit more than expected, and you could have more significant weather impacts in the area. Third, we are looking at the possibility of a stronger storm, the potential of a stronger storm. We're going to go over that tonight, which may impact the Mid-Atlantic between the 20th and the 22nd of February. I will say this, though, with the word of caution, all models are not 100% on board with this scenario. So just something that's kind of caught my eye the last couple days. I've been following the operational models, the ensembles, looking at the overall pattern, and it has shown up on multiple model runs. The GFS have seen this also, the storm potential, the middle of next week, the 20th to the 22nd, on the European model as well as Canadian. So we'll talk a little bit more about that tonight. And then seasonable weather, we'll talk about this. Seasonable weather with a lack of amplification of a deeper trough across the eastern U.S., and that is huge in our forecast. And then finally, my favorite, that pesky southeast ridge. And all a ridge is an area of higher pressure, and it just is nosing its way up the eastern seaboard, covering the southeast, keeping that cold air back to the northwest. And oh yeah, it is developed, highly amplified. And I'll show you a couple of European ensembles keeping that as a major player in our forecast. All right, so let's first start things off with the active side of things. Quick short-term update here of what we have going on. We do have cooler weather for Wednesday, the 13th of February 2019. That starts things off. We do have a cold front that is going to be exiting the Mid-Atlantic and the East Coast as a whole. There's an area of lower pressure, a 991 millibar low, situated over the Gulf of Maine, and that is producing a lot of wintry weather across the Northeast this afternoon on the 12th of February 2019, all the way into this evening and tonight. It's really causing a lot of wintry weather for cities like Boston, into Rhode Island, Providence, into New York State, up into the Vermont, New Hampshire area, and into Maine itself. So, they did get a pretty good system that has moved up that way. You got this cold front extending from that 991 millibar low out over the coastal waters off the East Coast by early afternoon on the 13th of February. So we have cooler, drier air moving into the area. We got stronger westerly wind component. Some of the downslope effects there over the Appalachians will result in slight warming, compression of the air, and high temperatures generally in the 50s across the Mid-Atlantic for Wednesday, the 13th of February. Moving along now to Friday, the 15th of February, we have another surge of mild air that's sneaking up the eastern seaboard, and that's out ahead of a newly approaching cold front. High temperatures may rise up into the 60s on Friday, out ahead of the next surge of colder air. There is a cold front which extends across western Pennsylvania by Friday morning, down into West Virginia, into Kentucky. There's some green shading there on the left-hand image showing you some rain shower activity out ahead of the cold front. The winds shift to the northwest behind the cold frontal passage. You get a changeover to snow in Ohio into lower Michigan, as well as up into eastern Canada. Image on the right shows that cold front it looks like it's falling apart as it comes into the mid-Atlantic actually by Friday afternoon. But it will make a passage through the area and it will slightly cool the temperatures. We're not looking at a major drop off by any stretch, but it will cause a slight cool down in temperatures going into the upcoming weekend. Notice also out west how active the pattern remains. Storm after storm coming into the west coast. Again, this is great news for California. They've been getting a lot of moisture, a lot of precipitation, especially into the higher elevations of the mountains there in eastern California, the Sierras. And so that's going to be great for the spring. That should give Southern California plenty of water for the upcoming summer, which is really good news. Moving on now, so here's where things get a little more active. We're starting to get into more of a southern storm track. The first storm approaches the mid-Atlantic on Saturday, the 16th of February, 2019, and you'll notice the blue shadings. The blue indicates has colder temperatures, but indicates snowfall. The pinkish colors indicate a mix of rain and snow, and then the green just plain rain. So you'll notice the 540 thickness line, which typically east of the Mississippi River is that rain-snow line. Anything to the north of the 540 thickness line usually results in frozen precipitation. Anybody to the south of that 540 decameter thickness line usually gets liquid precipitation. Right? And that's just a general rule of thumb, forecasting rule of thumb. East of the Mississippi River, where that's generally been known for years to get the snow north of that 540 line, the rain to the south of the 540 line. So in general, we got this first system moving in. By Saturday morning, it's just over western portions of Virginia. There's a little bit of snow falling across southern Illinois, Indiana, into northern Kentucky, right along the Ohio River, and there's some there's rain showers to the south, generally extending back into eastern Tennessee, back into northern Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, and into upstate South Carolina. Image on the right shows that system progressing east, and it looks to me like the snow is going to remain to the north of the Hampton Road cities. So Hampton Road cities can expect rain. There will be some lighter snow falling to the north over northern Virginia, up towards from Richmond north into Arlington, Virginia on Saturday afternoon, very close to the D.C. area, Washington, D.C. area. So it'll be a close call there for them. But we're not expecting a major storm out of this system. But I'm really going to highlight and emphasize in tonight's video of how active we're getting a more southern storm track, which is going to result in multiple chances of precipitation over the coming 7 days across the mid-Atlantic. So what happens then Sunday? It's moved so quick. The system on Saturday moves so fast that it's literally out of here. And one other thing I want to point out about this before I move on to Sunday and the next system, the second storm system. Notice the orientation of these thickness lines. They're generally from west to east. So that generally indicates to me that we have more of a flat zonal weather pattern. So the jet stream is pretty much blowing west to east. There's not a lot of amplification in the jet stream or a big dip in the jet stream, which is not going to allow very cold air to really push in down the east coast. Now the second storm system comes in on Sunday the 17th of February. It's right on the heels of the first system. This system also appears rather weak with only light precipitation at this time. That's the way it looks right now. Of course, things can change because you can get a greater amplification in a shortwave trough at 18,000 feet, or you can get a stronger push of colder air at deeper longwave trough possibly as well, which would then result in a little bit of stronger jet stream energy and a slightly stronger low or deeper low pressure system. So we have a 1,007 millibar low situated over western North Carolina by Sunday. This is Sunday afternoon. We have some rain shower activity, pretty much covering South Carolina, North Carolina, very light rain into Virginia. You see where you need to go for the snow, though, from northern Illinois all the way across Indiana, Ohio, into Pennsylvania. So that's along Interstate 80. Anything south of Interstate 80 becomes more liquid with time. We have marginally cold temps. There's nothing major here with temperatures. We don't have a major drop in temps. So the snow is all the way up around I-80 into Pennsylvania with this particular system. So as of right now, the thicknesses are too warm to support any type of wintry precipitation, with the exception of closer up toward northern Virginia and perhaps back towards the Appalachian Mountains. But you have to drive up further north if you're in the mid-Atlantic up towards Pennsylvania to really get into some snow. Now, what happens after that system departs on Sunday the 17th? We get a colder, drier pattern. So on the back side of that storm, as it pushes off, that weak system Sunday, as it pushes offshore, the winds are going to switch around to a northerly wind direction. There is an area of higher pressure up over northern Minnesota at this point. It's clockwise flow around it, and then the counterclockwise flow around the low pressure, which has departed, results in rather brisk northerly winds on President's Day, the 18th of February. I know some folks are off for that day, so maybe you have that day off as a holiday. But in general, it's fairly cold coast to coast on President's Day. Now notice on the right-hand image, the blue shading, and then you have green, and then that pinkish color again on the right-hand image. That shows you that there's another storm developing out towards the west. It's fairly far south. And I'll show you what this looks like as we progress in time. There's area of snow breaking out across southwestern South Dakota into a good portion of Nebraska, western Kansas, into Oklahoma. And then there is a mixture of rain and snow there along the 546 thickness line, generally into central Arkansas, back into southeast Oklahoma. And then anything south of that into eastern Texas, Houston area, up into Louisiana is plain rain at that point. So fairly cold though for the Mid-Atlantic on President's Day. Now let's watch what happens here. There is a potential for a major storm on the 20th and 21st of February 2019 across the eastern U.S. and the Mid-Atlantic. Now, I'm expecting this is going to change quite a bit between now and early next week. The position of the low, the track of the storm, how cold or how amplified does the trough get? What are the temperatures going to look like? Will they be milder than this? Will it be colder than this? There's a lot of variables here, and again, this is where timing is everything. If you are living in the Mid-Atlantic region, especially Hampton Road cities, in the Hampton Road cities, we have not seen much snow this winter. If you're living in those areas, timing is everything. You need that perfect storm track. We need to see that trough really amplify and deepen to allow much colder air to come in. Preferably have a stronger 1040 plus high situated over the Great Lakes to funnel in the colder air into these overrunning moisture. And if you can get all that together, you get yourself a nice little snowstorm across the Mid-Atlantic. However, right now at this time, it's not looking likely. Now, there could be a lot of ice or perhaps a mix at the onset as we have colder air wedging up against the Appalachian Mountains in that cold air damming scenario again. But in general, we have low pressure forming further south. We like that. We have widespread precipitation, so we got a lot of Gulf moisture getting entrained into the storm. We like that. Notice the cold high setting up to the north in the image on the left. There's a 1033 millibar high situated over western New York State, and there's a 1037 reinforcing high back over South Dakota. So we have a lot of cold air that is moving clockwise around those high pressure systems, which is allowing, at the onset at least, a lot of possibilities of wintry precip across Virginia, into Pennsylvania. Notice it even extends back into the Midwest again, back into Missouri and Illinois. That would be overnight Tuesday night, the 19th, into the morning of the 20th. Now let's watch how what happens here over time. Now, there's going to be a lot of rain across the Mid-Atlantic the 21st of February. So you notice what's happening here. Let me go back one. All right. The image on the right, the area of low pressure, you really can't see it stamped anywhere. And right now the models are having a hard time determining where to put the low pressure system itself. Where is the center of this developing storm system? And so that's why this is going to change a lot between now and early next week. You know, a lot of warmer air right now. On the image to the right, they're putting lower pressure over western North Carolina into northeast Georgia in that particular area. So as a result, you're getting stronger southerly winds out ahead of the area of low pressure because everything goes counterclockwise. Circulation around low pressures in the northern hemisphere is counterclockwise. So we're getting a lot of warmth, a lot of warm southerly winds out ahead of the low pressure center, which is resulting in a changeover from ice to a lot of rain again. See the image on the left, the area of low pressure kind of skirts out to sea just to the east of the Norfolk area, but you still have a lingering frontal boundary that's situated extending southwest from that low on the image on the left down into eastern North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, down to the Gulf Coast. You have much colder air remaining well to the northwest. And see, that's the problem if you want snow in the Hampton Road cities, because you're just too warm. That warmer air surges in ahead of that low pressure system. By the time things cool down, the moisture is pretty much, the majority of the heaviest precip is offshore. That happens a lot in the winter here. But you do have on the image on the right shows that trailing frontal boundary. See all the rain, all that green area, all the way down to the southeast into the Gulf of Mexico. So what very well may happen if you get the right dynamics is you could get another area of low pressure, one more low pressure area to form along the frontal boundary before the colder air and that high pressure noses into the mid-Atlantic. All right, so it's just something to keep an eye on. You got a northerly wind generally blowing at this point in time in the image on the right on this would be early morning on Thursday the 21st of February. So you got colder air trying to funnel in at the low levels. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. This is, again, I'm expecting a lot of changes. All I want to let everybody know tonight in the video is there's potential for a major storm system in the mid-Atlantic and generally up the east coast. And there's a lot of variables here with the timing of the situation. Now, our good old weather bully, the pesky southeast ridge. This is the ensemble prediction system. This is the control. And I am showing you an image on the left for the 19th of February. An image on the right is the 27th of February. We're looking at the 18,000 foot height anomalies. All right, so blue shading on these images indicate lower than normal heights, which is associated with colder temperatures, below normal temperatures. The coldest air is where the blue is, right? And the warmest air is where the orange is. And one thing the European model is not backed off on is this pesky southeast ridge. The center of the ridge on the image on the left is situated just to the east of the Bahamas. And then on the right-hand image, it's situated over Cuba. And it has just been a beast to get rid of if you want winter weather across the east. It's just hanging on. It's hanging on for dear life. It's refusing to move. I call it the weather bully because the cold air is trying to come in, and this southeast ridge basically says, no, you're not coming in here. I own this part of the playground right here. So, you know, if this is going to, in fact, hold out to be true, then, you know, we're not going to have much snow at all. Even though we have a nice favorable pattern with more active southern storm energy, it's not going to matter if this verifies. If the European ensemble verifies here, that southeast ridge is going to prevent any troughs from really amplifying, and the cold air just is not going to make it in here. Now, there's hints in the longer range that that ridge is finally going to be flattened, but it's going to be hot. We're looking at mainly the last week of February by that point, and then the thicknesses do drop on this image. The ridge flattens. You get some pretty good cold air that comes in. You got a 1037 millibar high situated around Omaha, Nebraska. You got strong northerly winds from Omaha east to the east coast. But at this point in time, it appears that things kind of get less active as far as the storms. So again, timing is everything. You gotta get the storms. You gotta get that southern storm track if you want some favorable winter storms across the Mid-Atlantic. Right? You gotta get the cold air to basically come in with that high pressure situated to the northwest. At the same time, you get these active little low pressure systems that come through, and the track of the low pressure's got to be really favorable. It cannot go inland towards the Appalachians or up through the Midwest, like I've talked about in previous videos. You need it to go out over the water off the southeast coast and then work its way up the coast. Getting a negative North Atlantic oscillation has been very difficult this winter. There's just been a lack of high latitude blocking over the North Atlantic into Greenland. We are heading into the MJO favorable. We are in the colder phases of the MJO, but if this southeast ridge is stronger, it's going to trump everything. All right, but we do have a colder look, possibly in late February with more below normal temperatures. It's looking like a distinct possibility. Many of the models are showing a further amplification of the long wave trough in the east and colder temperatures at the surface as a result. Here is the European snowfall forecast. This is off the latest 12 Zulu. This is the 12Z 12 February 2019 model run. This is the operational run. Now the scale is on the right hand portion of the image. It shows you the snow amount in inches. The pink areas, the purple areas show you the heaviest snow, which is positioned back into northwestern Virginia, where you're seeing an 8 to 12 inch snow band. And then further southeast, closer to Richmond, you're around 5 inches. And, there's some good 3 to 6 inch snow amounts there into North Carolina, into Virginia, right on the border there, but it's further inland. Notice the Hampton Road cities, maybe a half an inch. So, but this is going to change a lot, and it's going to be dependent. I'm not showing you the European storm track in tonight's video, but it basically relates to this particular storm between the 20th and 20th and 22nd of February. The timing of this it could change as well by a day earlier or a day later. It could slide to the left or to the right. Bottom line is there's a lot of moisture. We have good potential for a major storm to develop, and this is European. This is what it's showing for snow. A lot of the snow is laid down towards the end of the period, but we will have mostly rain. That's what we're showing right now along the coast, because we just don't have the amplification, the thickness lines. The colder thickness values are not advecting or moving into our area. And look at that southeast ridge. If that verifies, we are going to have rain, just plain rain for a lot of the Mid-Atlantic. All right, just wanted to show you this forecast for the European snowfall, what it's looking at. And I have watched this closely the last 3 model runs, and it's varied. It's gone from anything from 3 to 4 inches in Hampton Road cities to next to nothing now. And the heaviest is shifted back. And again, there's going to be a lot of variability in this. Again, there's a lot of timing that's involved. So here are my final thoughts on tonight's video. We are looking at an active storm pattern that's developing for the Mid-Atlantic and the East in general. Now, there's many opportunities for winter weather for some locations. Rain along the coast is what we're thinking right now. So we're not expecting any major winter impacts for the Hampton Road cities. The amplification of the trough and the flatter ridge would allow colder air down the East Coast, but right now it's only looking marginally cold, with nothing significantly below normal as far as temperatures. If we got a really good deep trough along the East Coast with this type of pattern, with this kind of activity, we would be getting a major snowstorm all the way to the coast, to the Hampton Road cities. But we're just not seeing that. At least not right now. And again, things could change. And that's why I put the possibility up here. If you get a deeper trough and a flatter ridge, if that trough deepens and it's so significant, it kind of punches the ridge down and flattens it, then that would allow colder air to come down the East Coast further, possibly down to the Carolinas, and then you get that moisture overrun over the top of the colder air at the surface, and you could be in business for some wintry weather. So it's still something we have to closely monitor. It is February after all, and this is one of the climatological times of year where you get the most winter weather for the Mid-Atlantic in February. Right, so a deeper trough, if it happens, would mean a shift to the rain-snow line farther south with greater impacts. And so again, that's something we have to watch. We've got plenty of time to watch it. The southeast ridge is trumping everything and holding the cold air back. And you see it plain as day. Well, at least until the last week of February, it's holding it all back. Those blue dashed lines on these thickness images, those are the coldest values of air temperatures, the colder temperatures, and they're situated back to the northwest. All right, so even though you got cold highs to the north, they're not strong enough to really push the cold air further down the coast. All right, so again, something we have to keep an eye on. You never know. All right, so the window of opportunity is definitely closing for snow chances across Hampton Road cities. The reason I say that is, you can still get snow, as I made in my previous video. I showed some past storms. You can still get snow into March. However, we're starting to have an uphill battle here if you're in the Hampton Road cities because you're having increasing solar radiation. The sun is getting higher and higher in the sky. The angle at which the sun is striking the Earth's surface is getting stronger, and then you're getting longer daylight hours. With each passing day, we're gaining more and more daylight, right? So those are all factors that are going to come into play as far as the air mass, how cold the temperatures can get, right? And then longer range, I meant to put longer range indications there. Long range indications are showing the upper level trough finally amplifying, deepening, and flattening the southeast ridge, allowing for below normal temperatures to set in for the end of February. And that's what I was showing right here. For example, in this image, 1037 high situated around Omaha, and you've got 528 decameter thickness down to Hampton Road cities all the way to the coast. You got 540 thickness line all the way down into northern Louisiana, central Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. So yes, it's looking like we're heading into a below normal period late February into early March. But will that be just cold and dry, or will we actually see some more storm systems in the Mid-Atlantic? We'll have to wait and see. All right, that wraps things up tonight. Spot on weather. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you so much for watching. I wish everybody a very pleasant Tuesday evening and a great Wednesday, tomorrow Wednesday. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. If anything changes with the pattern, it looks like we're actually going to have any kind of major winter impacts, I'll be sure to make a special video. But I'm not holding my breath on it. I'm not too optimistic about that, to be honest. But who knows? The weather around here is very, very unusual. The Mid-Atlantic is a very changeable pattern this time of year. All right, that wraps things up tonight. Spot on weather. Remember, if we're not spot on, we're not doing it right. Have a great, great evening, everyone.